Breaking. Princess Leonor visits Valdesoto, Spain's best Asturian village. Cherry Blossom, Spain. The familiar sound of applause fills the air. Asturias. Tradition. Royal elegance. Everyone expected a simple visit, another royal appearance, another speech, another day on the calendar. But then, everything changed. Because when Princess Leonor arrived in Valdesoto, something magical happened. The village wasn't just honored, it was transformed. And so was she. This is not just a royal visit. It's a love letter to Spain. A moment that revealed who Leonor truly is, the future queen stepping into her people's world, not above them, but among them. Let's step inside that moment. Let's go where the cameras didn't linger, into the heart of Asturias and the heart of a princess. Valdesoto, a quiet village tucked in the rolling green hills of northern Spain. Every October, this place celebrates its roots, its food, its traditions, its laughter. But in 2025, something extraordinary happened. The village was named Best Asturian Village, a distinction honoring its preservation of culture, community spirit, and deep connection to the land. And on this bright autumn morning, the honor reached its peak, because the Princess of Asturias herself was coming. Hours before her arrival, the streets were alive. Children rehearsed songs, grandmothers polished the flags hanging from their balconies, and farmers lined their tractors in neat rows, adorned with flowers and ribbons. The entire village seemed to sparkle under the morning light. Then came the silence, the anticipation, and suddenly, the hum of engines in the distance. The royal convoy appeared at the edge of the village, winding slowly through the narrow road. When Leonor stepped out, the crowd gasped. She wasn't in regal attire meant for palaces. She wore soft beige trousers, a white blouse, and a tailored light jacket, simple, elegant, approachable. Her smile was genuine, her eyes bright with emotion. She waved, but not like a figure from afar, like someone home again. The first thing she did was walk toward a group of local children holding wildflowers. She crouched to their level, accepted the bouquet, and whispered something that made them burst into laughter. The cameras captured it, a frozen frame of sincerity. For many watching, this wasn't just a visit. It was a glimpse of the monarch Spain will one day have, not distant, but deeply human. As Leonor walked through the streets, she stopped at nearly every corner. A baker offered her a piece of homemade rosquilla. An elderly farmer told her stories about the past harvests. She listened intently, eyes never wandering. That, locals said later, was what moved them most, the way she listened. At one point, she was led into the village plaza, where a small stage had been set for the official ceremony. The Asturian flag fluttered beside the national one, and the smell of wood smoke and cider lingered in the crisp air. When the mayor stepped up to the microphone, his voice cracked. "We have waited generations for this day," he said, "and never imagined our village would welcome its future queen." Then came Leonor's moment. She walked to the podium. No paper, no teleprompter, just her heart and a few notes in hand. Her voice, calm, clear, and filled with pride. "Valdesoto," she began, "is not only a village. It is a reflection of what we hold most dear as a nation, our roots, our unity, our ability to protect what is real and lasting." She paused, eyes sweeping across the crowd. "Being here, I see Spain not through the eyes of a princess, but through the eyes of a daughter of this land, of its people, and its future." The applause didn't just fill the plaza. It echoed across the valley. Behind the formality of her words, there was something deeper happening. Those who watched closely could see it, a quiet emotion flickering behind her poised expression. This wasn't routine. It was personal. Because Leonor has always known Asturias as more than a title. It's where her story as heir began, where her first major speech at the Princess of Asturias Awards years ago brought her into the public eye. It's the land her father, King Felipe VI, once walked as a young prince. And now, it was her turn to walk those same paths, not as a symbol, but as a young woman coming into her own legacy. After the ceremony, she joined the locals in a short walk through the meadows. Farmers guided her past the old granaries, explaining how they've preserved ancient agricultural methods. She asked questions, thoughtful ones, about sustainability, about how to keep the younger generation tied to their roots. One farmer later said, "She didn't come to be seen. She came to understand. As the visit continued, she made an unplanned stop at the village school. It wasn't part of the official schedule, but when she heard children were preparing a small performance, she insisted on seeing them. Inside the tiny classroom, laughter erupted as Leonor entered. The children sang an old Asturian folk tune. When they finished, she applauded warmly, but then surprised everyone, she joined them in singing the final verse. She knew the words. The teachers wiped tears from their eyes. And that moment, perhaps more than any speech, captured the soul of her visit. Outside, under a canopy of chestnut trees, a long wooden table was set for a communal meal. Plates of fabada, cider, cheeses, and bread filled the air with rich aromas. Leonor sat among the villagers, no separate royal table. She toasted with them, laughed with them, and spoke quietly to a young woman studying agriculture at university. The woman later recounted, "Leonor told me that the strength of Spain is in its villages. She said, if we forget where we come from, we lose who we are." That single sentence became a headline across Spanish media the next day. As afternoon turned to evening, Leonor prepared to leave. But before stepping into her car, she turned once more to face the crowd. The sun cast a golden hue on the valley, and her voice carried softly through the air. "Never stop loving your land," she said. "Because through you, Asturias will always live." The applause was thunderous. Some clapped. Some cried. And when she finally drove away, many said it felt like saying goodbye to family. But that wasn't the end of the story. The next day, footage of her visit dominated headlines worldwide. Spanish television replayed her speech, international outlets praised her authenticity, and royal watchers called it the most genuine moment of her young reign in waiting. Yet behind the grandeur of the news cycle, something subtler was happening. Across Spain, young people began sharing clips of Leonor's speech with captions like, "Proud of our future queen," and "She gets it." The Asturian government even reported a rise in rural tourism inquiries. Valdesoto, once a hidden gem, had suddenly become a symbol of national pride. And through it all, Leonor's demeanor stayed humble. When asked later about the visit, she said simply, "I was just honored to be there. Asturias gives me peace." Her words carried a deeper truth. For a princess raised under constant scrutiny, Valdesoto wasn't just another stop, it was a rare place where she could be herself. No formal palace walls, no diplomatic protocol, just the warmth of a community that welcomed her like one of their own. Observers noticed that after the visit, her confidence seemed different, more grounded. During her next public appearance in Madrid, she spoke with a calm, assured tone that hinted at growth, maturity, and quiet strength. Royal insiders even revealed that her father, King Felipe, was deeply moved by her handling of the event. She showed not only grace, he said, but understanding. That's what leadership truly is. There was also a tender family moment behind the scenes. Queen Letizia reportedly called her daughter that evening. Their conversation was private, but a close aide later shared that Letizia told her, "You didn't just represent the crown today, you represented every mother and daughter who loves this land." That one sentence reportedly brought Leonor to tears. And for those who know the royal family's deep emotional connection to Asturias, the moment felt almost symbolic, a passing of strength from one generation to the next. Weeks later, photos from Valdesoto still circled social media, Leonor laughing with children, helping a farmer lift a basket of apples, sharing cider with locals. They weren't just images. They were glimpses of a queen in training, not through privilege, but through presence. Asturias has always been the soul of Spain's monarchy, its anchor of authenticity. And now, its energy had ignited something new in Leonor. Every royal watcher could feel it. This was the moment where she stopped being seen as a royal teenager and began to be seen as the woman who will lead a nation. As night fell over the hills of Valdesoto that day, the villagers kept their lights glowing longer than usual. They gathered around fires, replaying her words, smiling at their photos. They said she brought light, not just to the village, but to the heart of Asturias itself. And perhaps that's the legacy of that visit. Not the awards or the headlines, but the human connection, the quiet reminder that leadership begins not in grandeur, but in gratitude. Because in that small Asturian village, surrounded by humble faces and open hearts, Spain didn't just see a princess. It saw its future. Princess Leonor, the daughter of a king, the heir to a legacy. The young woman who walked among her people, and in doing so, reminded them all what a crown truly means. A promise, a presence, a heart for the land she will one day lead. And so, as the echoes of that day fade into the hills of Asturias, one truth remains clear: the story of Princess Leonor's visit to Valdesoto was not a formality, it was destiny unfolding before our eyes. The village will never forget it. And neither will Spain.